Good afternoon, everybody. Happy 4th of July weekend. What is going on? I see you, Aaron. I see you, Jalen. What's going on, everybody? Again, happy 4th of July. Thank you for joining me. I know it is a American holiday, as they say in Independence Day. Today is the day we fight the aliens. So this week we're going to be talking about multiclassing. So before we actually really just jump into it, again, welcome to Dungeoneers Pack Live. My name is Josh. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dungeoneers Pack Live is a weekly live stream where I recap the latest news in Dungeons and Dragons and discuss topics, provide some insight, solution, or my opinion on what's going on or these topics. Hopefully to provide some help for you guys at the table. This week in D&D news, there's mainly one big thing. It is the super mega crossover between Magic the Gathering and D&D. They've been showing off all kinds of cards, nice, pretty art that I will get to use later in future videos. But the big thing on the D&D side of this is they're releasing free adventures. So the first one is in Scarlet Flames. This is a level 8 adventure. Apparently it was supposed to be from levels 5 to 8, but the first one, which is going to continue on, is actually a free level 8 adventure. There's going to be 4 more that they are going to release. And actually, I'll go to you guys right here. This is what it is. It's a 14-page pamphlet or PDF. You can get off of Wizards. I have it in the description below. And yeah, it has your party. I believe it was for 4 to 6 character, 8-level characters that can go around chasing a red wizard from Thay. So, and it's free. So, with the 5, it's going to be as big, like a pretty chunky adventure that it'll probably take multiple sessions for your party to play through. Yeah, so again, here's everything. And I haven't actually got to sit down and read through it, but it already hints at the next one that's after, so it's going to be the hidden page. Most likely will be coming out this week. All right, other than that, only other bit of news. Actually, I wanted to show you guys some of the card art. This is some of the nice card art from the game. It's all super D&D. They're doing a really good job of like taking ideas or in general just fun stuff. It's super nerdy, and then managing to put a lot of it into the game. So if you're into Magic the Gathering and you're into D&D, like I am and my group is, and exactly, Jalen, you don't see a lot of free high level or mid-tier content from Wizards. So, and that's the big thing. Like, you're getting a free mid-tier level. And normally all the mid-tier stuff is in the campaign books. And those normally end around 10 to 15, 14. So the fact that they're giving you something for free right plopped in the middle of it, not a bad thing. And especially too, you guys want to just like do like some mini one-shots to get these like pretty much like multi-class characters that are like higher level and try out some crazy builds. These kind of things are perfect. Or also if you're a DM and you're playing in an established campaign and you need to kind of drop a one shot or like a little mini arc for your characters, this is another way to do it. This one looks pretty easy to plop in. Yeah, it gives you a couple places to stick your characters along the Sword Coast, but you can always just kind of plop it in. I believe they're just pursuing red wizards as they are in search of a book that can be plopped down anywhere. And then again, card art, nice. You see Owlbear right here, Tarask. Got Manticores, Guild Thief. I'm liking how they're introducing like the classes and subclasses. They're kind of doing like really cool, weird, or not weird, but not traditionally seen class combinations or race and lineage and class combinations for these. Like Guild Thief, this is a half orc, and then there is a card for a Hexblade Warlock, and it's, I believe, yeah, here, like I said, Grim Wanderer. This is a Warlock that's a Hobgoblin. Yeah. So really great art. Other than that, the only other news is it's 5th edition news. And if you haven't seen this week's video, it was sponsored by Dungeon Coach's Kickstarter for All Counters Almanac of All Things. So this is a 5th edition rules expansion that looks to add more tools for players or for players and play groups and DMs to expand combat, expand, give you some new roleplay options, and also help and buff up the exploration pillar of the game. This week's video for the Major Lore Hole was sponsored by this. It was funded in 5 minutes. So if you're looking for some new tools to play with, and your table's kind of getting a little frustrated, you need some more meat on your 5th edition, or you guys are just wanting to try something different, I suggest going and starting this, picking it up. I have a link for this in the description. Go ahead and support Dungeon Coach, another amazing content creator here on the platform. And yeah, this thing was funded in 5 minutes. So you're guaranteed to be getting this book. So yeah. In terms of what you can actually see in terms of the combat pillar, there is 20 new actions specifically to help out martial characters. 20 new actions that you can try out and play. Right now, there isn't too many actual actions for martial characters. Spellcasters also get some new spellcasting mechanics he's adding in there, and there's modifications to the death saving mechanics also to make the game a little bit more tougher. So again, if you're interested in this and you want to check it out, I have a link to the Kickstarter in the description. Other than that, let's get started and talk about. Actually, let's jump into the question of the week. So, question of the week. We're gonna be seeing answers pop up right now. I asked you guys specifically, what do you like or don't like about multiclassing? So lots and lots of great answers everywhere. So I had a couple of answers on Instagram. I had an answer on Instagram. I had answers in the Discord, and I had lots of great answers on the community page on YouTube. So we're gonna just kind of go down them before we jump into what exactly my general tips and answer your questions regarding multiclassing. So Noah said, what I like about multiclassing is that you can turn a character idea from your head into a D&D character without having to limit it to a certain class. It enables you to give you so much more flavor for your character to play. I 100% agree. It allows you to play into some concepts that normally can't be done with just a straight class. All right, Knife All Games. I love it when I turn this idea into my head into a fully realized version of the character who has a very specific set of powers and abilities. What I hate is when other players at the table act like what I do with my level progression is any of their business. So again, following the same sentiment as Noah, but also going into more the meta of multiclassing, how the general community or certain tables and certain players view it. Again, Ben Collins says, what I don't like about being set back on my spell progression as a caster, I do like the RP potential though. So he's looking at the mechanics. Yeah, multiclassing does mess with spellcasting, so that's something to consider. Jason Martinez, again, following the same sentiment as Noah, he likes that you can make any character he thinks of, but what he doesn't like about multiclassing is when others don't like it and they think it takes away from role playing. Again, following the same sentiment as Knife of All Games. Okay, and then Blair Brook, you see, I can have 11 attacks with advantage in a turn. That's Mr. Cheese. Thank you. Thank you. Wanting to break the game. There's certain multiclassing combinations out there. If you really diverge and like divest your time into it, yeah, you can get into crazy amount of attacks on a turn. All right, Ethan Alexander, as a caster person, spell progression, especially spell slot progression, warlock, anything else is doubly irksome. So he has apprehensions about multiclassing, especially when it concerns spellcasters. Again, NPC says, I think multiclassing provides incredible RP potential, in some cases powerful class combinations. Again, following the general sentiment, it allows you to make different kinds of characters. And the list keeps going and going. A lot of great answers. Megan says, I like the flexibility multiclassing gives you to be able to model my D&D PC after my favorite fictional characters. I feel bad with people telling me I'm just min-maxing when they see my Sorcerer Warlock fantasy version of Scarlet Witch. I wish there were more or less Joey goalies in all of my favorite fandoms. Yep, gatekeeping is not cool. But again, multiclassing allows us level of flexibility. I recommend checking out Tulok the Barbarian. He specifically focuses on making character builds that are modeled after your favorite pop culture characters. So I know he has a Scarlet Witch, especially when WandaVision came out. He has a Scarlet Witch build out there too, and he continues every week doing different stuff based on anime, comic books, movies, TV. So Tulok the Barbarian, I would recommend go checking him out if you're wanting to play one of your favorite characters. And then Shonda, we'll go to the last one. My experience with multiclassing has been negative. I was in a dungeon crawl game with a team of 6 people. 4 single class specialists and 2 multiclassers. The 2 multiclassers overlapped at the 4 specialists and hogged the spotlight, and you got mad when one of the specialists tried to use their abilities. I'm already doing that, or I have mine active. Why are you doing that? So in general, long story short, he brings up another problem with multiclassing, and he is specifically talking about how multiclassing lets your character go very broad and fill multiple roles in the party. So I will be discussing that also in just a bit. And I just wanted to check out what's popping up in the Discord. Their answers. Quick. And then the lovely folks on the Dungeoneer back Discord. If you want to join the Discord, I have a link to that in the description below also. Or I also will be posting the weekly and interact with the community on there. Ebrav said, I'm very hesitant about multiclassing, to be honest. It just feels like a pain in my head. Well, hopefully this live and this video after it goes up will help you out with that and make it a lot easier. Dynastis says that he likes unique builds that allow for crazy combinations like the Hexblade Warlock and any charisma-based class. And also allows for great opportunities to develop characters in different ways that helps with breaking the classic mold for the class you may be running. What he dislikes is how you level the class. It can make you feel stunned at times, as you'll be slower on getting certain power boosts from sticking to one class. Rich Mary, my friend and fellow content creator, go check out his channel. It's Rich Mary YouTube. He covers very similar character subclasses and player options. Definitely go check him out. He has really good insight on the subclasses and classes in the game. His answer was the idea of multiclassing is great until you realize that all the other classes will be ahead of you on the power curve. So again, sharing the same sentiment that if you're multiclassing with the spellcaster, that it's kind of iffy. And then Linear says, I love it for the narrative reasons and the fact there's some potential combinations around as many classes that have really strong features level 1 to 3. Dislike is that it's not as appealing if you're playing a full caster as your main class, but I think it's a fair trade-off. Again, thank you guys for the answers. I'm going to be jumping into all these, everything you mentioned, actually, and then addressing it. Also, anybody's questions about multiclassing in the chat, go ahead and throw that in there. Let's see. That's saying Aaron is talking about WandaVision right now. He's currently watching it. Scarlet Witch idea tune would be cool. Yeah, Tulok has a build for it. In general, I'd probably go. It's a reality warping sort of spellcaster. There's a lot of classes you can play this with. I believe most people generally go through sorcerer, wild magic sorcerer, to kind of hit up on the unable to control magic angle of the character. Any sort of reality warping character, you can probably look at the critical role wild mount classes too. Maybe it just really depends on what time period of Scarlet Witch you want to play. Do you want to play the I can't control my powers wild magic sorcerer? If you want to lean more into like she's actually in control of it, you probably want to look more into a wizard that deals with messing with time and space or illusions, or you can go like a number of ways. Wild magic is a sorcerer subclass that whenever you roll a critical fail, a 1, you get to roll on the table, or if your DM tells you to roll on the table, you can roll on the table. That's what that one is. All right, so let's discuss. We're going to be discussing multiclassing. So it's just going to be my face on this. So multiclassing. So why should we not multiclass? Let's start with the negatives before we get into the positives. So we're not going to multiclass because it offers a very set of powerful combinations or features that might not be enjoyable for your party or your DM. Multiclassing on the negative side of it is what a lot of you guys have said. It takes away from the play group because you have very, very powerful characters that are so efficient at doing the one thing, their one combo, that other players don't necessarily get to play. So that's one of the negatives of multiclassing. And it just really depends on, a lot of it has to do with not necessarily the build, it's how the player approaches the game. So a lot of people, when they say multiclassing, there's the two problems is they see it as a min-max thing, which is not necessarily true. You can multi-class and not necessarily play a min-maxed character. But the other is the attitude players have when they approach a multi-class build. Early on in my 5th edition career, when I started playing the game and really started getting invested, I wanted a multi-class all the time. I wanted to be pretty much some sort of melee spellcaster. That's kind of like my favorite area. Gish is what the kind of characters I generally like to play. So that's what I wanted to do. But there's certain combinations of that make them so focused on a specific combo that it does disrupt the game. What's going on, SR? Thank you for stopping by. We're just jumping into the topic today, multi-classing, going over the negatives. So, but it's a lot of attitudes. A lot of players that do multi-class and do the min-max thing, they are very, trying to put it politely, but a little bit more selfish on that, where they are wanting to play the combo and just do the power thing and just rip right through. Biggest thing I will say is like make your character to the table. Multi-classing is good; you can still do it, but also always talk with your DM and your players because everybody needs. Next problem with multi-classing, the single level class experience is more rewarding and is actually streamlined, and it's so much easier. And 5th edition really actually reinforces it to the point where it's really hard to make a bad character. With the way bounded accuracy works, when you're putting your when you're choosing your ability score increases, even if, say, you don't have an 18 or a 20 in your best casting stat, having at least a 16 will still get you there. On top of that, as a spellcaster, you are actually, for any class, because as long as you're hitting your power spikes at the right levels, as a single class, you're always going to be faster and more efficient at what you're doing as your class compared to a multi-class who has to take the dips and then actually stop their progression. So 5th edition really rewards you for playing a single class straight through. And on top of that, what is bounded accuracy? Bounded accuracy is the design terminology on how essentially the math works for 5th edition. So that's why you don't see too much like plus or minuses in the system. That's why they have the advantage system. But also, it's mainly when there is a buff, it's either like a +1. The highest I've seen it as a +3 on weapons. Then you have the proficiency modifier, how that interacts with everything. And that's why armor class bonuses and stuff are really low numbers. It's because it's not so much about giving you like super high numbers to mess with the math. It's lower numbers, year of use, but you don't necessarily are punished too hard if you're missing certain numbers. That's pretty much how bounded accuracy works. All right. And pretty much in terms of how a streamlined level 1 or a streamlined single class character is rewarded and is supported in 5th edition is also character options. So there's new subclasses that keep coming out that allow you to play, for example, my favorite, the melee spellcaster. So what we have the Hexblade, we have the Armor Artificer, we have the Battlesmith Artificer, we have the Blade Singer Wizard, and then there's the Eldritch Knight Fighter. So there's different things that play into that same concept space, and even the College of Swords Bard, like they play into the same space on a subclass level that lets you play these characters. And at the same time, there's feats. Tasha just added a bunch of new feats that take certain aspects and certain class features and to give them to multiple players, multiple characters. So you don't necessarily have to multi-class. You can still play the character concept, but as a straight class. And then also racial and lineage options do the same thing. They keep adding in these racial traits that pretty much are almost class features, or like they're a little bit weaker than class features, but they do the same thing. Even in the base player's handbook, if you play a Mountain Dwarf, it gives you a bunch of weapon and armor proficiencies. And if you want to play spellcaster that just so happens to want to hit things. For example, my buddy Adrian, he's running a College of Creation Bard as a Mountain Dwarf, but he plays it like a melee fighter, and that has Bard abilities. And it's because he has an axe and he has heavy armor, so he has some decent defense. So it's different ways to mix fix these that make it so much easier to streamline. In general, single class characters are very focused. They're focused on what the classes and the subclass are able to do, and that's the benefits of doing it. If you're a sorcerer, you're going to be good at being a sorcerer. You're a fighter, you're good at being a fighter. You're good at hitting things, and so on and so forth. But now, why do we want to multiclass? Enough with don't multiclass. It's why do we want to multiclass? So again, the same reason why multiclassing is an issue is the same reason why it's a good thing. It provides powerful combination of features. So excuse me, we're able to accomplish feats that are not capable with a class's single tool set. You get to do mainly a lot of multiclassing revolves around a cool combo that isn't capable with a single class. It's normally the combination of two features or spells and a feature that interact in such a way that does something that could that pushes the power level of the game or lets you play a character concept. For example, I just posted a week or two ago a Hexblade swashbuckler build that revolves around a single class combo. And luckily, it wasn't a multi-class. I was able to accomplish that. But before that, before they released certain characters, you had to multi-class swashbuckler with a spellcaster like Warlock or something like that, and it was to achieve that combo. So another old school combo or multi-class they used to do was before the Hexblade Warlock even came around. Only way you can play, most people played a Pact of the Blade character was a level 1 dip into fighter, and then Path the Fiend Warlock, and that was really the only way to play a solid melee warlock because you get all your armor proficiencies and stuff. So that was another way to do it, and it's just those combinations to build a certain character archetype. That's why you do the multi-classing, and that's what a lot of the sentiment you guys are saying in your comments is like you get to play characters you normally couldn't play, and that's what it does, and that's with the powerful combinations you get to not necessarily break the game but push the game in a direction. But again, it's all about the combo. It really comes down to it. Multiple conversations say that it's really just about you're multiclassing for a specific combo. Whether that's for a min-max reason, you just want to do something super powerful, or if it's for a character creation reason, that's what it's there for. What you do it for. Again, you do it because you are able to explore character concepts that can't be played by a single class or even a subclass. And ultimately, multi-class character is going to be more versatile since you're dipping into more classes and more abilities. You're going to be able to do a lot more things, which can be a dangerous thing. But in general, that's why you do it, is because you want to kind of fill multiple gaps in the party. So, what are my general tips to multi-classing? So, get sad, not mad. So this is taking some ideas from optimizers. It's not that I don't optimize. I generally stay more on the flavor side of things and wanting you guys to optimize the flavor and optimize that when I do character builds and stuff. But also it's why you don't always see me multiclassing too much in my builds either. But it's to say sad and not mad. What it means is try to focus on a single ability score. Mad means multiple ability scores. When you stay sad, your character is going to be a lot more focused, and it's going to be a lot easier to multi-class. Focusing on a single attack does not hurt your combat power. That's one of the big concerns is people are saying, well, my spell progression, my abilities to actually be a spellcaster, if you're multi-classing as a spellcaster, will be affected. Staying sad. So classes like you're mixing a paladin with a sorcerer, since they're both charisma-based classes. That boosts it. Warlock sorcerer is another very, very powerful multi-class combo, and that right there is a sad class combination. So it's a single class. They both utilize the charisma stat, so it makes it easier to stay and use spells from both classes and still only have to worry about maintaining your charisma modifier. There's still class combinations that do use multiple stats, but those are harder and they're more advanced, and you really have to dig into the specific combo you're wanting to play. I don't recommend it for newer players getting into the game and wanting to kind of explore it a bit. Um, and it leads me to another tip. The reason I don't recommend it is because you need to hit your power spike. So level 5 is the big power spike for 5th edition. And I always recommend after level 5, that's when you should multi-class. Some exceptions, there's some classes you need to do it after level 6, like the Monk and the Paladin, because their level 6 features are so good. And I think to some extent the Rogue. But normally after level 5 on any class is the perfect time to multi-class. Hitting that level 5 power jump is super important because this is where your fighters get extra attack. This is where your spellcasters get their 3rd level spells, so they get counterspell and fireball. And the power jump from 1st tier to 2nd tier is so high that not having access to those features does put you back, especially as a spellcaster. But if you're a martial class and you're not being able to do multiple attacks, you're gonna fall behind significantly. Hey, what's going on, Rich? Thank you for dropping by. Yes, happy 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. Well, this is the day we fight the alien. But yeah, hit level 5. There's some exceptions to this. I will go, and it's mainly the only time you do not want to take one class and go into 5 is if the first level dip is so strong that provides you such an advantage that the power 5 increase doesn't hurt as bad. So which classes do this? The Artificer, a level 1 Artificer for 1 dip, you start off that for a Wizard, provides you so many tools that being a level behind isn't that bad. It gives you increased armor proficiency, more spells, full proficiency. It just gives you a lot. Lets you survive enough that not having access to some of the higher level spells immediately helps out. Cleric is another one that any wisdom based class or any class that wants to play or character that wants to play a real, getting the 1 level dip into cleric and then jumping into whatever other class you are. Cleric was one of or is the strongest class in 5th edition, providing such a wide selection of features and different play styles that they offer so much at level 1 that sometimes it is just worth it just to take it and then take that hit when you hit level 5. But in general, you want to hit 5 first in a single class, and then you start multi-class. Rich says most of the best multi-class are blocked behind 2nd level abilities. Fighters and Warlock come to mind. Yep. And that actually brings me to my next point. Take smaller level dips for multi-classing. This is personal opinion. I know there's a lot of builds out there that go like 11 and 6, 10 and 10, these crazy builds that get you to get this super strong combo. The reason I say take smaller level dips is the reason why, which Rich brought up. 5th edition classes are very front loaded with the features. They happen to be in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level of their class, where you get a lot of your power. So, and most of the time, that's where all the good features are. It's very rare that if you push beyond that, unless you're after a specific class combo, that you can still play your character concept. You can still play your character by just taking a 1, 2, or 3 level dip into a class. The reason smaller level dips too is that it's easier to prevent issues with power progression. So you're taking a 1 level dip doesn't really, as a spellcaster, hurt you too much in keeping up with spell progression. Especially if it's a class that, like I said, if it's sad, they share the same ability score. It doesn't hurt you. You still, on top of it, you'll get access to more spell slots, but not necessarily higher level spells. So there's a little bit of a trade off, but you can do stuff at a lower level a little bit more frequently. SR said, 1 dip in a row gets you expertise. Every class can benefit from expertise. Expertise is amazing to the point where they started giving it to multiple subclasses because of how good it is. Yeah, expertise is great. So, and the other thing is, the reason you take smaller level dips, I mentioned it, larger investment into different classes and subclasses ultimately weaken your power. And they also cause, which is often overlooked within theory crafting for multiclassing and character builds, is the play is how it plays and how it feels when you play. Um, Everybody gets enamored. They get so hyped up on the combo that when they're actually playing to achieve like these big level, well, big multi-classing investments. So it's like, say you're a 11 one class 6 another to hit that combo. Um, to get to that point, your character feels terrible. Um, and it's nothing against any of the other character builders. Theory crafting is awesome. Like just trying to see how you can build your favorite characters is one of the things that's fun about a fun thought experiment. But getting to that place where you can actually play that character, sometimes your campaigns are never going to get to that place. It's just an unfortunate reality of playing D&D. On average, the statistics show that you're only getting, most games end around level 10, to the point where Wizards of the Coast doesn't even support anything past level 14 really in any of their adventures. Even the new adventure coming out, I think it's only going up to what, level 10, 12? What about a level 3 dip into fighter for the Dread Knight? That would be sweet. I still need to figure out the mechanic. And as soon as I get the Dread Knight going, I will post an update. Dread Knight is a subclass, a homebrew subclass I'm working on to eventually just release for everybody to. But yeah, so that's the thing. It when you multi-classing into these big builds, it just get to the point where you can actually play the character. At points, you're not even going to be able to get to that point because the realities of just playing this game, you're not always going to get to the end of the story. Unfortunately, so life happens, or it just feels bad getting to that because you're like single class barbarian is just ripping through everybody, and if it another 5 levels, you're going to be able to get to that same point. Well, the barbarian's going to surpass you anyway. Okay, you're 5 levels to get to the point where he's popping off 30 damage a hit. And then it's like, well, another 5 levels, I will be able to pop 30 damage hit. Well, those next 5 levels, well, he's going to be doing 50 damage a hit, you know? And it's just those things. It's just really, really rough, especially for a new players too. They see a lot of builds out there that are multi-class builds that are like doing the cool thing. Like let you play Spider-Man. Well, you can't really be Spider-Man until you hit level 15. Well, the campaign's starting at level 1. You need to invest X amount into one class before you can get to level 15 in the first place. So it really, really just hurts. Requires a lot of patience with these bigger builds. That's why I always recommend smaller level dips. You get to play your character concept faster. It doesn't hurt your progression as much. And you get a lot of the power up front. Another tip, though, if you're going to take these smaller dips, if you're already investing 3 levels into a class, just take the 4th level into that extra class. Getting your ASIs on kind of on schedule also keeps you up with power. So, but yeah, so if you're already investing 3 levels into a class when you're multi-classing, just take the 4th, get the ability score increase or the feat access. Really can do it. That helps you out. And the big thing for multi-classing for tips for anybody, make the story matter. That's the big thing. I'm very RP story forward and how I approach a lot of the stuff on my channel. That also doesn't necessarily mean any builds I put up are going to be super optimized to just do the special combo, but it also doesn't mean that I'm not going to optimize to fulfill the concept. For example, the Hexblade Swashbuckler is a combo-driven character idea. And it's built off of one combo, but I wanted it to actually have a story behind it and actually make sense for the character. And I wouldn't play it without it. So if you're going to be multi-classing, make the story matter for your character. Classes all have an inherent class fantasy built into it. Biggest one obviously is the Warlock. The Warlock has probably some of the best class fantasy built into the class. Cleric has probably followed it right by it. Sorcerer is another great one. Wizard has strong. A lot of spellcasters have really good character fantasy. Fighter is it's not that it's bland. It's just it's vanilla enough that you can do whatever you want with it. Rogue has a really strong class fantasy that's super supported by the mechanics. Paladin, it has one with its oath. Ranger, I think, is in the same boat as the fighter. It's vanilla enough, even though it's focused on being the scout, the person out in the wilds. But yeah, take that stuff in consideration when you're building your character. Give your DM the toys, give him the tools to weave it. You're going to multi-class, talk to your DM and say, I'm going to start off as a fighter, but I eventually want to progress in like a warlock. That gives your DM enough time to set up seeds to make the campaign a little bit more personal for your character. And who knows, the biggest thing I think we saw with this biggest example was Critical Role Campaign 2. The character started off as a Ford, the half-orc hexblade warlock. Started off obviously as a warlock, but he behind the scenes he had made it aware that he eventually wanted to progress into paladin. Matt Mercer crafted the campaign around enough story parts around that character to give him that character progression, give him that story that satisfies the player and the audience, to eventually lead him down the path of being a paladin. At the same time, to be flexible, there's going to be events in the game that might just change your general design path that are going to be thrown at you, and multi-classing something else, whether it's optimal or not, might just suit the character better. Say that you're playing a wizard who, through a series of events, just kind of loses his way and then finds faith. Well, a wisdom isn't necessarily a great stat to pair with a wizard who's a intelligence-based caster, but the story might lead you a certain, and then you want to take a level dip in the wizard. There's certain wizard or certain level dip in cleric. Certain cleric subclasses that do benefit wizard, but the story kind of helps you. So make the story matter. Give your DM toys. That's the biggest thing I think. Even me as a kind of a newbie DM going into my Descent into Avernus game, I want my players to give me toys so I could throw stuff back at them so they get to play. Even though it is campaign I'm running is very it's out of the book, so it's a very through line. There's an end to it. Making it more personal and especially your guys are going to consider multi-classing. Giving your DM the backstory, giving them the hooks will help them hold their story to it. So, what are your guys' general tips for multi-classing that I did not hit on? Because I hit on, I was very broad about this. I probably will do a video later going into more detail on this, because there's a lot you can expand on this and get into more points that I probably missed. But yeah, so again, I'm going to reiterate what the tips were. Stay sad, not mad. Try to be a single class. Try to stick to a single ability score focus when you're multi-classing. It makes it just a lot easier to keep up with the power progression. Smaller level dips are preferred on personal point of view. It makes it easier to keep up with your power, and you still get to play the concept and character you get to play without necessarily heavily investing it. The only reason if you are going to invest heavily into higher levels, you're an advanced player and you're going to be willing to deal with the power loss as the characters progress into the story. The only reason I would say do these crazy higher level builds, the easiest way to play them is in one shots. If you're going to do like a 12 level one shot where you can go like 6 and 6 or 7 and 5, you do these crazy builds. One shots are perfect for those big builds because you get the power immediately. But in terms of playing a standard campaign, it's very, very hard. It's very rough. I always recommend smaller level dips. And then make sure to start multiclassing after level 5. Hit your power spike. That is super important. With the exception of if you're going to take a first level dip to start off your character, like the Artificer or the Cleric, those offer so much at level 1 if you start off with them that they give you enough to kind of limit the power loss before hitting level. All right. So that is all I have to say really regarding multiclassing. We're going to just do a little bit of recap on my home game. Yesterday we got to play Avernus. Unless you guys want to have some tips or some advice or questions regarding multiclassing, I will. All right. So what happened in my Descent into Avernus game? So they had spent the last session shopping. So I had set it up that they were going to go. They had just got out of the dungeon. They had just gotten ambushed by the Cult of the Dragon, and they spent the entire previous session shopping. So we picked up after their shopping spree. They were back on their boat, and they needed to capture the son of the of Duke Van Damper. So there's gonna be a lot of Descent to Avernus spoilers. Sorry about that. They had just found out by one of the Duke's sons that the brothers and the mother are funding the Cult of the Dead 3 to make the Flaming Fist in Baldur's Gate looks terrible so that she can take over and be the new Grand Duke of the city, pretty much being the mayor, the person in charge of the entire Baldur's Gate. Um, but the youngest son, Mortlock, informed the party, go after one of my older brothers. He's the family favorite. He's next in line. Um, Use him as leverage however you want. He's located at the Low Lantern Tavern. So they were supposed to hatch a plan. My party didn't. They decided, well, we're just going to go straight to the tavern and we're just going to do something. That's pretty much what's their plan. They're going to do something. They get there. They spend a good 2 hours, as anybody would, in the tavern playing games. None of them won. They lost money. Interacting with the bar patrons, so on and so forth, until they got directed and found out that Amric was downstairs under them. So then they go down there. Their plan, I don't know what their plan was. I don't know if they planned on intimidating the character. I don't know if they planned on trying to smooth talk them to get them what they want. They went there, and no, Aaron, you did not win. They went down there, and attempted to talk to him. I don't necessarily know what it was, but I made it very clear to them that they stuck out like a sore thumb. They were the only ones there, and then it was just a bunch of the guys working there, and then Amric with his bodyguards, and so they stuck out. So instead of just approaching him immediately, they all just huddled to the bar, like anybody that's awkward at a party, that doesn't know anybody. You're just kind of sitting in the corner with your drink. That's pretty much what they did at the bar. And then the warlock character, Cryostis, he awkwardly, but he's one of the party faces, awkwardly sat down on a comfy couch, raised his glass to these characters that don't know him, and pretty much led to initiating combat because he made it socially awkward. Combat started. This was supposed to be a hard fight. In the book, it tells you Amric is going to try to run. He will throw a smoke bomb. So that's what I did. Started a fight with a smoke bomb. And pretty much messed up the fight for me. It messed up and that didn't necessarily mess up the fight. It saved the fight for the party. As none of my characters can hit and they were struggling, but they were still able to land hits. So they dismantle the enemies, capture Amric, and then needed to figure out what exactly they're going to do with him. They had no plan. They bag him, tie him up, take him to their boat, and attempt to interrogate him. And they spent a good 15-20 minutes arguing with each other in game and out of game about how to what to do with him. The biggest thing I learned from seeing this go down, in terms of from a DM point of view, looking at it as players trying to figure out what to do and solve problems in and out of game, the biggest things I saw that stuck out was not everybody contributed to this. A lot of people in the party were very, very quiet, as they're very, very much more combat oriented. So they look at the game much more, we're going to do combat, we're going to hit stuff, and that's it. And then the other ones that are very more talkative didn't necessarily have a plan going in. They just didn't. They knew the objective. They just didn't know what to do. They didn't take the time to actually hatch a plan of what they're gonna do to capture this guy and what they're gonna do with this. So the biggest thing I advise my players, if they're watching this, but also anybody that's in that situation where you kind of have characters pulling at two parts and they're doing good things in a sense that they build their character for a specific reason, and that or they're doing their role, but they're not necessarily exploring other roles to do. If it's not on the character sheet, don't worry, try it. I will say that just because your character is a fighter and he's not good with intimidating, he's not good with any of that. Um, try it anyway. Being trying to do things and try to make things happen, the dice will decide whether it happens or not. There is no sense of loss if you're a fighter with crappy intimidation and don't necessarily get to intimidate the guy. But if you do intimidate him, it can change the story drastically. At the same time, if you're a character that isn't the guy that hatches the plan, doesn't mean at a character you can't be the one that hatches the plan. Your in character being is not necessarily not dumb, but you're just not tactical, just not book smart. But you as a player are. You can always come up with a plan and then pitch it to the guy that's playing the character that is the book smart one, or the one that's more playing the character that's more tactical, so that in game in character they can be like, well, what if we do this? It's separating the two things, your meta mind, I guess you can say, your player character from your actual character, and at the same time, it's just reinforcing that D&D isn't necessarily just what's on the sheet, what your abilities are. It's also whatever the story can help dictate. If you know the story wants you guys to do something, or it would help if you guys did something, there's no hurt in trying to do it. So, if some of the other characters and other players kind of just spoke up with an actual plan, or to kidnap this guy or whatever, and not necessarily stick to their single role that they built their character for, I think it would have been a lot easier for them to handle this sort of kidnapping and interrogation and extortion thing that they were trying to do. So next week they're going to go venture into Van Thamper Villa to go confront the mother, and it's going to be a nice little dungeon crawl. So again, that's my little bit of advice for our players and for anybody that's kind of going through this, where they're used to just playing what's on the sheet. Experiment, okay. And also another thing is, if you ask your DM to do something, it's not going to be per DM. Like if you were to ask me, say you want to intimidate somebody, but you're not in charisma, but you want to do it in a physical nature, it's perfectly within the right for the DM to let you use strength. It actually says in a player's handbook about using alternate ability scores for certain skills. I'm one of the DMs that will let you do it. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Obviously, there's going to be some DMs that you're just going to play to your sheet, and that's perfectly fine way to play. But if you're attempting to do something in a different way, and the DM's flexible, try it. Do not be afraid to not do it. Even if you don't get the combat ability that doesn't let you do it. If you want to try to disarm the enemy, and you don't have an ability that doesn't, try to do it anyway. If that you know that's going to benefit the party in some way. Again, try. Do cool stuff. Try to do cool stuff. If it happens, you get rewarded. You don't necessarily get punished. All right, and that about wraps it up. What it was, Aaron was saying, Egan had a fun time and didn't get hit until he got stuck in the bag. What happens, man? Happens sometimes. All right. Pretty much. Thank you guys for showing up on this 4th of July weekend. I'm gonna wrap it up a little early. Next week we will be talking about party cohesion, building party cohesion from a. I'm gonna talk about two things. Doing it mainly building party cohesion for out of character, and also tips on how to build party cohesion in character. So we're going to be looking at mechanics, some of the social aspects of the game itself, and then also just my general point of opinion about how, not necessarily a proper way, but how to, I think, build a successful party and a successful party in game, and also successful play group that'll kind of help you guys stick around and continue to play the game, and not maybe hit those level 20 marks, or at least play multiple campaigns. Again, if you guys haven't checked, up at the top of the chat, there is the Major Lorehold video I did this week. I'm finally going over the recent UA. That was a fun class to take a look at. You'll see my opinions on that, and as the weeks progress, I will continue to do the rest of them before Strixhaven launches. Other than that, check out the socials. Dungeoneers Pack YT at Facebook, Dungeoneers Pack on Instagram, and DPack YT on Twitter. And if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. We have a pretty decently active community there, willing to talk and answer any questions you have about 5th edition. If you want to continue talking about multiclassing and want to argue with me there and tell me I'm wrong, you're more than welcome to do that too. Or generally just want to go ask more questions regarding it, or want to help other players that are in there that are wanting to know how to multiclass. Feel free, join the Discord. A lot of discussions. Watch out this week for the question of the week. It will be about party cohesion. It will show up on the community page. It will show up on Instagram, and it will show up on the Discord. Okay. Other than that, thank you guys for showing up this 4th of July weekend. Have a safe. Cool. It is very hot here in Southern California. I believe it is going to approach 100 degrees right now. So enjoy your barbecues. Yeah. Happy Independence Day, everybody. Thank you for fighting the aliens. If you guys don't know, that is an Independence Day reference. But again, thank you guys for showing up. You guys have a good one. I will see you guys next week on another live and another video on a Friday. Have a good one.